You know what? I'm glad I'm doing it. Every time you email me, I'm like, oh my God, I got to reply to that guy.
I'm actually pretty nervous in the sense that I don't really know how to start with this, but because I've known you when 45 jokes about my date that just came out.
Yeah.
And I managed to get like a copy of it. I don't know how I got it. Because I was searching for high and low about that. I remember like you are like there's a lot of interviews like it's a special that's weird for that's quite different for me because there are cards of interviews in between, which I think that's pretty interesting as well. Which and it makes it very how does it? It's not like a regular stand-up comedy where you sit down, you watch a comic doing his or her special for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's weird. I don't have a copy of it, so you could rip me a copy. I'd appreciate it.
but like because I was searching for it like the past couple of the last couple of weeks as well, just so that I can go back and watch it again. And man, it's just, you can't find it anymore as well. I'm like, where do you find the video version of it? Like I remember watching it and there are like comics who just go up who just tell like stories about you.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So like,
yeah. The production company that edited it has a copy, and they're going to put it on Amazon Prime. They were going to do that a couple weeks ago, which they didn't. Everyone always, if they say next week, they mean in 2 months. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it'll be on Amazon Prime at some point. Yeah.
But was it like a conscious choice, or do you just go, okay, like this is what I want to do for the special? Or
I think what I learned later is I filmed the special, just the stand-up part by myself. I paid for it and all that. And then I had trouble getting any interest in it. And so these guys, Frank and Chris, added footage of like people talking about me and interviews so that I guess I wouldn't seem like such a monster who was just making jokes about my dad, like, oh, here's her dad and here's the relationship, and she loved her dad. And I don't know, I guess just the stand-up I came across as cold. I have no idea. This is kind of what I was told. So yeah. But I mean, when you add other guest stars to something, it helps sell it too. I mean, I had Conan O'Brien and Patton Oswalt and Andy Kindler. So I guess that helped sell it to the company that would later go out of business. So that's really my success story, Gary.
Because it's just a weird thing, because I also listen to other podcasts that talks about your work as well. I was listening to WTF and the Com. And there's this thing that stuck out to me a lot, because I feel like as a one who's still trying to start out as a career with comedy, right? Like being on the sidelines in this like being on the sidelines is kind of like has been like a common theme for a lot of us, right? Like, and it's like, oh wow, like a writer from Conan and a lot of shows that I really love kind of have this same thing that's being dealt with her in one way or another. It's just like a weird, like, wow, like that really that still happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think there's always some sort of if you look at comedy types, there's some kind of childhood resentment that never leaves you, you know? And even when you supposedly get even with, your enemies, or even surpass them or something, it doesn't help. But I mean, I guess it does help, but also at that point you're like, now you're a comedian, you're a comedy writer or whatever, and now you're just good at a skill. But I think the thing that gets you there is really old and deeply felt resentment.
How do you convince yourself to take okay, look, this is right now at this day and age, I got to take my own first next step. Then how do you deal with that then?
You mean going from not doing it to doing it?
Yeah, to from not doing it to doing it to okay, like this is finally I can get my own special and put it out on out to the masses.
Well, I mean, I couldn't get I had to do it myself. So like I couldn't get Netflix interested. I couldn't get anyone interested. So and I thought it was good enough to at least for me to pursue the idea. And because I worked at Conan, I could pay for it. I ended up getting reimbursed for that by the Seeso, the company that bought it. But for a while I was like 25, grand in the hole. And yeah, so no one gave it to me. No one's ever given me a special. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not one of those that even like within comedy, there's like the chosen comics that the industry loves from day one. And I was never one of them. So, and if you're talking about being on the sidelines, I feel very much on the sidelines in stand-up comedy where, if I went away, no one would give a shit. No one would care. No one would try to talk me back into it. Like I'm just staying here to be irritating to people at this point. Like you can't. I'll still be here.
But right now, do you still feel that way, or because you kind of like have a career out of this for so long, really?
Oh, I feel that way very much so. I mean, I feel. I talk about this, my friend Jackie Cation, we have a podcast together, but our sort of generation of women were really like, they picked two women from our generation they liked, and that was it. And the rest of us were like, sorry, we have our fill, and you're on your own. So there's a lot of us that feel like, well, I've been doing this 30 years, and you just gave a special to someone who's been doing it 10 years. I know they're not as good as me. So it's it's about other things. So I don't know. So yeah, I still feel mad. To answer your question, I'm still like annoyed. I mean, I don't have the same resentment because I have some perspective on life and what is important and what is bullshit. But I still get really annoyed when I see me not having the success other people have. And I'm just like, but I'm a better comic than that person. I don't get it, because it's comedy. We're all supposed to be, it should be merit-based. It should be like who gets the most laughs, who, and how they do it, etc. But it's not that way at all. And,
But there are times where I just think to myself, like the goalposts keep shifting, the yardstick keeps shifting, right?
Yep.
It's like, okay, look, this guy seems to be great, but I can prove that I am better and stuff like that. But it seems like, okay, look, but this guy produced more, bring more seats onto the bring more seats to be filled and stuff like that. And then it's just like, hey, what's the goal? How do you measure like which comic is a better comic? And everyone is like, oh, because he or she has a better social media and stuff like that, or he has like there's a tangible side of measurement as well, and then it seems
they're
very complicated.
Famous. It's like I've seen this happen where like people start investing in a performer, right? And the performer fucks up, but they've already put their years of work into this person, and they're like, well, let's just help them up again. And then they fuck up again, or they're just not that good, but they can't let go of the fact that they, managed this person for 6 years. So they're just going to keep pushing, and eventually they become famous because certain people in the industry won't let them not be famous because it makes them look bad, That's what it feels like sometimes. So, but I mean, who cares in the end? Who cares? Climate change is coming for all of us. And I still want to boil to death in 40 years.
Oh man, I don't know.
I hope I just have a nice little heart attack.
I'm trying to figure out what way is the best way to get out before the whole climate change thing.
I don't know. I mean, we can't all move to Canada. You know, I mean, there's room for a lot of us if they'll take us, but we can't all fit there.
I'm not sure which places like they had with higher ground. I know like Denmark, we can't go there anymore. Like they are under the sea right now.
It's too low.
It's too low. Yeah. That's why they have such a good like a water management kind of thing. Like they have like a dams. Like they're very good at building dams. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like Denmark is not a place where we want to go. I'm not sure whether it's the best place or the worst place to go right now. Because they have a good water irrigation system. Like they're good at it right now, right? I don't know. Here's this one thing that I want to ask. Because you also I also heard that you do a Tough Crowd as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a writer on Tough Crowd, and I appeared on it a couple times too.
So I want to ask, right? Because I've watched Tough Crowd, and I've watched Conan. Like what's the difference of writing both of them? Like it feels, or how should I say, or how do you get the gig in the first place? Because to get like a writing gig in on TV seems to be like it seems to be a very, very wild concept for most of us. Yeah,
I mean, I'm looking for one now, and it feels like a wild concept. You know, I got the job at Tough Crowd. I knew Colin Quinn because I had performed with him in Cuba, and so I asked him if I could submit a packet, and he let me, and then he hired me for the pilot. But mostly because I kept emailing him ideas. Like, I think the pilot was already done practically, or he knew exactly what he wanted, but he's like, oh, so I got like 1 week of work out of him. And then I was like, oh, I want to be on the series then if it gets picked up. And so then I had to resubmit for the series, but I got hired that way. And then for Conan, I was friends with Brian Kiley, who's one of the monologue writers, and he was, he let me know. He would say they're hiring, and so I did a couple packets, and for late night, I didn't get hired. I did one for the Tonight Show, and I was told I was gonna get hired, but then Conan left the Tonight Show, and so then I did one for TBS, and I got hired.
Because it feels like Tough Crowd is a very different show compared to Conan, right? It's a wildly different show. So what's the dynamic difference wise? Because it's all comics in Tough Crowd and while
Tough Crowd didn't have very much that was written. There was like Colin would have an opening monologue, but he often did that himself. In fact, he almost always did, or he did it with Ken Ober, who's the head writer. Who's now dead. Ken was great. And then the thing that we, wrote on, if you call it that, was the Act 3, which was some sort of sketch or remote with one of the regular comics like Patrice. I went with Patrice to Fashion Week in New York. That was really fun. So much sexual harassment. I can't even tell you. I did a thing with Jim Norton where we kind of like looked over his childhood, like with old picture books and stuff. Like it was supposed to be a recurring feature called Get to Know the Regulars. And so we sort of like look at, and so he gave us some old pictures. It was really cool, actually. And then I don't know, some other stuff, some like a little more scripted sketch stuff that they did live. But that's what that was. It wasn't a ton of writing, and Conan was a ton of writing. I went into shock the first week at how many jokes I was, kind of expected to write, or the other comics or the other writers were writing. I was like, fuck, okay. But I got used to it, so that was okay. But it was just a lot of, and it was monologue joke writing. It wasn't sketches, which is kind of thinking bigger, and they're, monologue jokes are just like precise strikes.
But
so
okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Conan, I've seen Conan's career change from the way his monologue was written, right? Where it was a more traditional monologue to a crazier to a crazier more sketchy version of, like, I'm not sure whether that's a good word to use, like a more sketchy version of the monologue.
Conan?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you mean? He always did a monologue.
Yeah, but his monologue has become like, I always have this impression where his monologue has become from a monologue, a very traditional monologue, to a slightly more like a sketch / monologue.
Well, I mean, when the show went from an hour to a half hour, we had less time for sure. So it got shorter. The monologue got shorter, but it was always, something. It just got shorter. But then I guess he would do sketches in the first act, and maybe he wouldn't before, if that's what you mean. But
like, what happens if the well dries up, like the well of jokes for the monologue and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it's sometimes, you suck that day, but you also, that's why they always have more than one writer. It's very rare that everyone sucks on the same day. So, when on a day when you don't have it, your other writers probably can cover for you, and vice versa. And then it's also super news dependent. Like, the news is incredibly depressing and has been for quite a while. And it's so depressing that even the stuff that used to be fun and silly, like, Kardashians or whatever, like celebrity news, just felt stupid and heavy. Like, even celebrities were, taking stands on issues, and it's like, could you just be dumb so that I can make fun of you? I mean, please. So it got harder because Trump he kind of like blew apart what you could make fun of, because you couldn't ever heighten him comedically. Like George Bush, W. Bush, was dumb, and so in a joke he'd be a little bit dumber than he is in real life, and you'd write it in a way that was funny. But you can't make Trump anything more in a joke than he is, because he's already way off the charts. And also it was never, once he became president, it wasn't even fun, because he actually had the power to do things. When he was just like this old racist, shouting on Fox News, like we all have, or a lot of people have relatives like that. So we all know someone like that. You can kind of make fun of it. But now that guy, not only can he do big things, he does terrible things. He was doing terrible things from, day one. So it just became less like it. You'd make fun if you could find a way to make fun of him that didn't feel, already heavy, and it like felt fresh. To what end? Who cares? Because he still kept getting worse, and it's like a volcano explodes and you start making fun of the lava, and the lava is like, well, I don't care, I'm still coming for you, and you're like, but I'm doing all these great jokes, wait, why am I boiling alive right now? Like, it did feel kind of futile after a while, but futile, not futile.
But there's this but I have this impression about Trump is like, whatever he says, right? The joke has already been done. Like I'm not sure is it because of social media, but whatever he says, right? I feel like when he says that, I can expect like 30 jokes from Twitter in about 5 minutes time. So right. everyone seems to jump on him very quickly. I was like, can you just slow down so that I can know what he says, so that I have time to formulate any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I when a comedy late night monologue started, there was only one guy telling it, and it was Johnny Carson, or whoever's before him, Jack Parr maybe. But it was like the whole, in the United States, you only watched one guy, and it was Johnny Carson, and the jokes he made actually kind of informed people and changed the way politicians behaved, because they would watch the monologue and be like, oh my God, everyone thinks this, they're laughing at me, okay, let me fix this or something. And now it just doesn't serve that purpose at all. Like, now there's 4 or 5 different people doing monologues, maybe more, and politicians don't care if you make fun of them. Like, you can call them a hypocrite, a sex offender, a drunk driver, a racist, and they don't care. So I think whatever a monologue was before, it's not that anymore. It doesn't change anything. It just makes you laugh at the current situation, I guess, but it doesn't move the needle any place. And it weirdly, I think it used to,
Is it because there's too many people doing? There's too many people doing monologue, because I feel like there's Seth, there's a lot of comics like Seth Meyers, and the other late shows, plus you have the other political shows as well, such as John Oliver's last week with John Oliver, and the one with Trevor Noah. The Daily Show,
Trevor Noah and Sam B too, and Amber Ruffin, and then the Jimmy Kimmel, Corden, Colbert, and Fallon. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Like
that's a lot of takes. That's a lot of opinions. Yeah, it's a lot. So everyone's gonna. I think people pick their favorite, right? And then that's who you stick with. But even then, if you have 8 choices every night, say Monday through Thursday, that's now the audience that's watching is divided by 8. And they're not watching at night. It's just so different, how people watch a late night monologue now than they did, in the 70s. It's so strange.
I don't know, like when I watch all those monologues, and I'm like, there's too many. There's some jokes are repeated, but everyone's like, there's too many. Like can you just focus on, like, it feels like everyone is just doing this the thing on their own, and the TV channel doesn't care, because it's like they just want to, like, does this pull the audience member, and I'm not sure whether is it good that way, because who do I listen to?
Yeah. It kind of makes you feel like writing jokes is pointless. Because I mean, it's not. And every time I see like a great joke, or I see a great chunk, or I see a great monologue, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's why this is so awesome, but there's the other thing is, like, almost every person on earth also has their own YouTube show, and like it used to be, there'd be like, maybe 200 performers in the whole world, and then everyone else was the audience, right? But now everyone's the performer. Everyone's a performer, and the audience is comprised of other performers that are kind of figuring out what you're doing so they can copy it or not do it. It's just as we head towards extinction, we're all trying to be famous for a little bit of time. Like it's like this increasing desperation from just a whole generation that knows you know, I mean, if you're under 40, like that news story that you're going to see unprecedented heat waves. Like,
Oh yeah.
what an awful thing for my kid to live with, you know, you know, and all these people. Why not just have your own show on YouTube until you die in a heat wave?
I think we thought that we can be the one, like we can be the Highlander, right? Our show will be the best, right? We are being told that, oh, you can do whatever you want on the internet, and you give you like it was being given out this glamour of hope. Then you realize, oh, everyone else is also being given the glamour of hope. And when there's too much good of that was being shared by everyone. There's a lot of dumb people around.
Yeah, I don't know. What's your question?
There's no question in that. There's no question in that. Okay, I want to ask about your.
We just got sadder, Gary.
Oh man, I don't know how, I don't know how to pull myself out of that situation right now. I guess that's why I have a YouTube show. but there's one thing I want to ask, right? Because I like to go to the special a little bit, right? Why 45 jokes about doing the special itself, right? Do you how do you separate these are just jokes and not what, because during the recording itself there's no interlock, that there's no intermission of various comedians just sitting down and just, hey, you know what, like and just break the audience members thing, right? How do you like do the show, like say, hey, you know what, these are just jokes and not what do I really feel about my dad and my parent, what I feel about my dad and stuff. Well, like
that's why I named it like exactly what it was, because I wanted people knowing ahead of time that they were just hearing jokes about my dead dad for about 45 minutes, and that's it. So I felt like the audience that I had for my shows were they were on board, you know. Like I didn't shock you or surprise you with any content. You know, I mean, it's also kind of structured like a regular comedy, a stand-up show where there's a lot of callbacks. It ends on a callback. There's dick jokes. So it has all the things you need to keep an audience entertained in a regular club. Although I wouldn't do that. I would not have done it in a regular club just because a regular audience would need some sort of break from that content. But these people were primed and told. So
because I feel like a lot of special these days they kind of like treat it like it's not jokes after, because you're just 45 jokes about my dead father. It feels like, okay, look, like these are just jokes. I can see that it's a joke thing. While there's a lot of special that I've watched, it feels like that there's an arc for me to follow. Like there's a message that I'll get at the end of the day, and it's like that there are a lot of like undertones to that show that I need to know that I'll get in the end as well. It's and 45 jokes about my dead father. It felt nice in the sense where it felt nice because I'm sitting in there. It's like, okay, these are just jokes, and I think it's kind of rare. It's kind of rare a little bit because it's like it's just jokes and it's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want it to turn into a one-person show where there was like an emotional part. I'm against emotional parts in stand-up comedy. I think it should just be, it's called stand-up comedy. Tell your jokes, you know? So yeah, I didn't want that. That seems like, you know, the thing people do. And I just wanted it to be pure stand-up about my dad and that situation. So yeah.
I, I suppose like there's a conscious choice about choosing the joke. Okay, this is just part of my head. What I thinking like is it easier when it comes to like instead of like a one-man show style of it? Like is it easier to choose like jokes in between to work in a set compared to like the one because I feel like one-man show, like there's a pressure of like there's a start that there's an arc going through it and then stuff like that. But that isn't that much for a jokey for the joke, like a point of view going in.
Yeah, I've never done a one-person show. I've seen them, and I always feel like, you know, annoyed because you know, they will drama is way easier, right? It's way easier to just sit there and go, somebody died, right? And just sit with the silence dramatically, and then you tell a joke and stuff, and then everyone acts like you're a hero for telling a joke in the middle of your drama, you know. And it's so it kind of annoys, you know, that I always feel like they're cheating, like you know, they like I wrote, you know, say actually there's probably like 75 jokes in that thing that I probably could have done 30 and then told a poignant story every 5 jokes, and you know, it would have been an hour and a half long and everyone's been like, oh my god, it's so moving. But that's just super irritating to me. So
I feel like that's important if you're just trying, like there's a joke in because me and my friends are like joking about it, like saying like if you're in Edinburgh, like that's how you get your 5-star review.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and like there's times when I really enjoyed it. Like I really liked Nanette, you know, and she was you know, serving some drama, and then she'd have some jokes, and I'm like, you know, it was really a well done version of that, but it's still as a type of show, you know, it's just an eye roller for me, even though like Nanette was really good. You know?
Yeah.
But I understand why people would want to do that. I mean, maybe that's me being uncomfortable with, you know, dramatic emotion. Probably is. It's probably a disorder of mine, and shouldn't be emulated by any of your listeners.
I don't know. Like I feel like at some point people just want to. There's a lot like people like doing like a TED talk, like say, oh, you got to go along with the story kind of thing, like story kind of captivates.
Exactly. It's just shameless. I mean, so you know, like you just you water your act down a little bit with like some lessons that you learned, and then you do a TED talk. It's shameless. I know what you're up to, you people that are doing that. I see it. You should, you know what? Good for you. Make your money. But you know what? I see you. You didn't get away with it from me. Okay. I'm not impressed.
I feel like if everyone just clean their acts a little bit better and have their parents love them when they're younger, everyone can be Tony Robbins.
Yes, although Tony Robbins, I believe, is a psychopath, and I'd be interested to find out his actual childhood, not his version of it. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I think that most motivational speakers are psychopaths. Like there's this guy called Simon Sinek.
Yes. Okay. I don't know who he is. But...
So he got really famous. He's an advertiser. He got really famous for some conversation that for something about millennials and got really viral with that. Okay. And I'm like, and he's actually his talking points are so big, and exactly what the boomer says about the millennials. And I'm like, and everyone, including the millennials, was like, oh yeah, he's saying the truth. And I'm like, no, he's not.
Awful. And the other thing is people like that, then they tell like one lame joke and they get a big laugh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because the audience is expecting, you know, motivation and drama. So they're surprised by a joke, so they'll laugh at it. But if you look at the joke, you're like, it's just B- material at best.
Uh-huh.
It's like when athletes are funny, like they are hardly ever actually funny, but they're funny for athletes because no one expects them to be able to even speak in a complete sentences. So that always drives me nuts. Like, you would never want to be doing a late night set on the same show as an athlete who's kind of funny, because they'll actually do better than you.
Oh, yeah.
Because the audience's expectations are really low. And then you go up and they're like, oh, you're a comedian. All right, let's see it. And so, you know, their expectations for you rise quite a bit. So you might actually have a worse set than Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
You know, sitting on the couch, he tells one dumb joke about Giselle or something.
I feel like that's the same for actresses as well. I think actresses get away with it. Like Jennifer Lawrence was like had this persona of like, and I'm like, how, like, it's kind of manufactured it's just kind of ironic in a sense where she's just trying not to get a manufactured persona out of that by being manufactured as well. So it's like and then it's kind of like, oh, okay, like how like we can't do that as a comic is not, you can't possibly get away with that. You are kind of expected to be that.
Yeah, you got to be way better than them. Yeah,
but because I want to know a little bit about your parents, I guess, like because you talk about like being like your parents are conservative and you are like a liberal, like it's like polar opposites of
oh right.
Yeah. Are politics being like, how big are politics in your household then? Like because it feels like it's a very big thing in most of my American friends.
Well, my household is just me and my son now, so you know, he's kind of on the same page as I am. But he's only 14. You know, he might rebel and really piss me off and be a Republican for a couple of years. But no, but I mean, you know, my parents were sort of they were regular Republicans, and then after 9/11, you know, my dad really went over the top, you know, in a way that I was always just shocked, because he was like a civil engineer. He's got a master's degree from Stanford, and you know, he's super smart. And then somebody so smart could be like so taken by this dumb thinking is it like, it was shocking when it happened to my dad, and when I see it, you know, now on just by so many Americans, I'm just like, wow, you know, it's I don't know what to do about that. I can't I don't know what to do. But yeah, so my mom kind of was like one of those ladies that did whatever her husband did politically. So that was my mom.
Is it because of 9/11 everyone feels like they have doubled down whatever their beliefs are?
I don't remember my dad being I mean, I don't remember him being anti-Muslim or anti-Islamic before 9/11. And he lived in several Muslim countries. You know, he lived in Iran for a year or two. He lived at the Philippines, and he lived in Saudi Arabia, although he hated Saudi Arabia. So it's not like he was just this, you know, guy who was unexposed to new ideas or different people. So I don't know. I really don't know how that happened. It's a bummer. But, you know, he died in 2014, so I don't even know how he would have responded to Donald Trump. While I like to think he would have been really disgusted by him, but part of me is like, yeah, I thought a lot of people would be disgusted by this guy. They jumped right in. So I don't know.
I don't know. Like your celebrity, the celebrity culture in US is kind of foreign to me as a one who's residing out of US, like who's born and bred outside of US. It's just like everyone. even right now, looking at celebrities, it feels like they. I think Ricky Gervais hit home when he does his last Grammy, the host of Grammy, or
the Golden Globes,
the Golden Globes, and just hits.
Yeah, it was funny, man. He's very funny.
Yeah, so it's like it's but to me, when I look at it, it's yeah, it sounds funny, like the joke writing techniques are there, right? But it's not funny because it's so truth. Like there's so much truth and weight hang over it. Like it's not funny anymore. And
well, you mean with Gervais?
Yeah. What?
Oh, well, for him, to me, what makes me laugh, I mean, sometimes the jokes made me laugh, but also that he was doing them in front of that audience was really funny.
No.
It was like, it was in a way not remotely as admirable, but Colbert's State of the Union in front of George Bush, just like, this is the wrong crowd for these jokes. And to watch a comic tell jokes in front of a crowd that hates the jokes and if the comic is okay with it and they're like, that's fine, I'm just gonna burn up into re-entry here and land in the ocean, I don't give a shit. That's so fun to watch. Usually comics are like, oh, let me try to fix this, and so on the rare, especially when you're on international television, and he just doesn't care. That was a lot of fun. And it's weird because I'm not a huge fan of Ricky Gervais as a stand-up. I don't think he's that original. Like I keep watching, whenever I watch a stand-up, I'm like, this guy invented The Office? Like, I can't believe it. But he's great on the Golden Globes. So I don't know. He's a mixed bag for me.
I'm like, oh, like I can see the jokes in there, and it felt like whatever he says about the kind of the celebrity culture is just like, okay, look, this is a celebrity culture, and it's so poignant, like it's so, and it feels like there's there's something that was being said in there. I just go, oh shit, there's so much truth in there. It's not funny anymore, and everyone's laughing about it. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like it's.
Which joke are you talking about? Do you remember?
There's quite a few. There's this one where he talks about like there's like celebrities are thinking about like their whatever they say matters so much, like they matter so much that they are trying to save some, they're just trying to save some group of people or something like that. Yeah. And they have to like just go up on stage, take your award and say thank you and get the fuck out of stage or something like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's very it says a lot about the celebrity culture. And just like oh my god, like and everyone was laughing at it, everyone was like tweeting it out and taking it as a joke, and I'm like, it's no, like it's like it's not funny anymore. Like there's so much honesty in that.
Sure. I mean, I could see both sides of that. Like sometimes you do want someone to shut the fuck up, but other times it's like, hey, if you're in front of a massive audience and you have 30 seconds to call attention to something, I appreciate that people would do that too. I don't know, I guess it's I think if I won an award I would try to be funny, but I think actors aren't, if they decided not to be funny, which is always merciful because they are rarely funny, that they should throw a little sunlight on somebody else if they can, if they want to. I'm not against it. I think that's fine, but also I like to also make fun of them for doing it. So I get two things. I get them earnestly doing something, then I get joy watching them being made fun of for being earnest. So to me it's a win-win.
But I'm going to talk a little bit about my mom because of Twitter. I suppose like they everyone has talked about it, but it's kind of like raw when we talk about your mom, and you kind of like tweeted everything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose it's like a how do I say do you think about what what it had become today, where everyone's still talking about you kind of like the what it had become today. Does that make sense?
Like why
When you tweet about the jokes about your mom.
Yeah, about my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you expect the attention that they got, the amount of attention they got today?
Oh, no, I didn't expect that attention. I thought I'd get some attention because I had already done it with my dad. But yeah, it got a lot of attention for a little bit. Yeah. I think it was because obviously she's dying of COVID, so it was new to people. It was June of last year, and I don't think I think whenever up until then, like when people had died of COVID, you heard after they died, right? Yeah. And maybe my thing was one of the first times someone was tweeting it as it was happening, as opposed to after she died. And so in that way, people are sort of riveted a little bit more because the person, how the story's going to end, you just don't know when. And so perhaps that's why people were following along. And it was COVID, so it was new. And the fact that my sister and I had to lobby the hospital on social media to let us come visit her in PPE was a big deal. And I think everyone was just sort of absorbing the horror of having to watch your loved ones die over FaceTime and that you wouldn't be able to be there. And so kind of describing that as that was happening was, I think interesting to a lot of people, I guess.
Because it's very raw in a sense of I judge it's very raw. And I remember I had a scare. This is not a COVID scare. It's way before COVID where my grandmother passed. And at the point of time, I wasn't sure how to compartmentalize the fear of people dying, and telling it as a joke. So that it's not, it's like how do you compartmentalize in how do you okay, look, like this is the
I don't have like a technique. It's just joke writing, but it's applied to a personal situation instead of the news. That's it. I mean, it whenever something crazy is happening, if you can figure out how to crystallize it in a joke, at least it doesn't seem so unknown to you. You're like, oh, okay, I figured that emotion out. So it's almost like making sense of what's happening at the time.
Okay, sure. Okay. I guess I'm gonna ask this last question then.
Okay.
But okay. So I don't really know. Okay, I don't really know how to end this, but you I suppose I could do a little promo for your new special, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I have a new album coming out. It's not a special, but it's an album. It's called Corset. It's coming out at the end of October.
Okay. So what is it about? I suppose that do you talk about?
It's not a theme like my dad's special. It's just a snapshot of, I guess, everything that was important enough for me to bring up on stage in November of 2019. So my mom was living with me at the time, and so it's living with an elderly person. It's living with a tween, a 12-year-old. My son was 12 at the time. It's being a single mom. It's being trying to date and just it's all that stuff. It's just being me in November of 2019 under those conditions. And it's called Corset because between the two of them, my son and my mom, in our little tiny place where we were living, I could barely breathe, and so I felt like I was being cinched on both sides by these two people.
There's this one question that come back. Okay, I know it was the last question, but I just got reminded for this question as well. This is one last question.
I knew you would lie to me, Gary.
I'm so sorry, right? Like I feel like I have to do it.
Your sorries mean nothing to me. Go ahead.
but okay, I'm going back to tough crowd. Because this question that goes into my head, like what is it like working with tough, like, because the whole tough crowd thing, like what was it like working with the comics, because it feels like Colin Quinn, Patrice O'Neill, they are those comics that stand away from the like the political beliefs and everything. Like it just feels so different with comics like Colin Quinn and you and Patrice O'Neill and you and then it's kind of like it's a weird dynamic between it's a very wild dynamic between all the writers and all the guests. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's very of its time. I don't think it ages very well. There's a couple, there's like clips or two that age okay, but a lot of it's comedy that worked back then, that was funny back then. It was a lot of insult comedy. And which now I just don't think people are into, although I love a good insult, especially if it's just mean and unnecessary and it's about something the person can't help. I mean, it's so great. But there's like an earnestness in the audiences now of like, don't punch down and all that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to be as nasty and cruel as you want to be, which, maybe that's good. I don't know. I just remember it being like, it was just, that's the way New York City was back then for a couple of years, like
is it hard to fit in, or is it big, or is it like I fit in right there because I'm a comic and stuff like that.
It was really hard to fit in. But it wasn't as hard for me as it was for the LA comics coming to visit. Like, you'd have like three New York comics, like say Geraldo, Voss, Patrice, or somebody, or Keith Robinson. They knew each other backwards and forwards. They had done a million gigs together. They're used to yelling at each other. They're used to insulting each other. And then one LA comic who was like, what the fuck? And it was always a weird mix. You should never have one of anything on a panel. You should always have two. You should have two LA comics, two women, two whatever. If the dominant thing is something else, because you can't have that one person carry the load for everything. So, but that happened quite a bit, and you'd just be watching like, oh, this is a car accident, but whatever.
All right.
But Gary, I should wrap up.
Yeah, I guess I was about to say that's the end of the podcast as well.
Yay!
Yeah, so
we did it. I'm sorry it took me so long to reply to emails. I'm really a terrible person. At least I acknowledge I'm awful, and I think that is something, right? I blame no one but myself and my uninterest on being on podcasts.
I'm okay with it. I feel like I get a taste of show business somehow. All you have to do is just to keep sending emails and then I just watching.
Pretty much like being a comic in the US. So you got a little taste of it.
That's what I wanted.
That's good. I'm glad.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for doing this.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Thank you.